Is it gonna be fun? Yes, indeed. And then Mike, read.
Hello, I'm Mike.
I'm Oh no!
Oh, I think that happened last time too. Hold on a second. Hello, I'm Mike. We've opened a black hole. All right. Apologies. Hi, I'm Mike,
I'm
and we're reading a book. We're reading The Count of Monte Cristo. Today we're starting with chapter 16 of The Count of Monte Cristo. We've never read it before. We're reading it for the first time. We're using fake French accents to the best of our ability. I'm trying to remember. I think chapter 15, it was Dantes in prison talking to the Abbé.
He discovered he was not alone.
And he dug a hole. They were able to dig a hole or tunnel, or the Abbé had mostly dug a tunnel to Dantes accidentally, and then Dantes was able to punch through the last little bit at the end, and they were able to meet up. So there's a little combination there. We are reading chapter 16 today, which is entitled A Learned Italian.
Which is, I think, in reference to the Abbé.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's Italian, but we're still giving him a French accent. Don't ask us why. We're trying to be consistent, but it's not internally consistent with the locales.
Also, I fear it would turn into Mario, which would not. No one would want that.
You don't want that.
No one wants that. All right, take it away.
All right. Chapter 16, A Learned Italian. Seizing in his arms the friend so long and ardently desired, Dantes almost carried him towards the window in order to obtain a better view of his features by the aid of the imperfect light that struggled through the grating. He was a man of small stature, with hair blanched rather by suffering and sorrow than by age. He had a deep-set, penetrating eye, almost buried beneath the thick gray eyebrow, and a long, and still black, beard reaching down to his breast. His thin face, deeply furrowed by care, and the bold outline of his strongly marked features betokened a man more accustomed to exercise his mental faculties than his physical strength. Large drops of perspiration were now standing on his brow, while the garments that hung about him were so ragged that one could only guess at the pattern upon which they had originally been fashioned. Okay, so we're talking about a man who he's not physically very impressive, but part of me wonders how much of a workout you'd get digging a tunnel like this.
Probably get you might have a weird spine and
bad posture,
neck problems, but you're probably gonna have your arms.
Your arms are gonna be totally ripped, and your forearms and stuff. All right.
Or bad arthritis.
Yeah. So in my mind, he's a really scrawny guy, but the Abbé's forearms wiry, but his forearms are completely cut.
He's
totally
Popeye?
cut, just like Popeye. Yeah. The stranger might have numbered 60 or 65 years, but a certain briskness and appearance of vigor in his movements made it probable that he was aged more from captivity than the course of time. He received the enthusiastic greeting of his young acquaintance with evident pleasure, as though his chilled affections were rekindled and invigorated by his contact with one so warm and ardent. He thanked him with grateful cordiality for his kindly welcome, although he must at that moment have been suffering bitterly to find another dungeon where he had fondly reckoned on discovering a means of regaining his liberty. "Let us first see," said he, "whether it is possible to remove the traces of my entrance here. Our future tranquillity depends upon our jailers being entirely ignorant of it." Advancing to the opening, he stooped and raised the stone easily in spite of its weight. I'm telling you, completely cut. Then, fitting it into its place, he said, "You removed this stone very carelessly, but I suppose you had no tools to aid you." "Why," exclaimed Dantes with astonishment, "do you possess any?"
He's like, Are you
using
to
tools?
Home Depot?
Yeah,
Where are you
I got this crowbar. Let's see here. Drill, shovel. I made myself some, and with the exception of a file, I have all that are necessary: a chisel, pincers, and lever. So here's the old man. Look at that forearm.
Yeah, you're right.
And here's Dantes.
Dantes looks old. That doesn't look like a man who's okay. He could be 26. It's
kind of hard to tell from back here, he's not shaven clearly. His hair hasn't turned gray or anything, but prison's hard on a man.
Yeah.
Prison's hard on someone. "Oh, how I should like to see these products of your industry and patience." "Well, in the first place, here is my chisel." So saying, he displayed a sharp, strong blade with a handle made of beechwood.
What?
And with what did you...
I'm selling it on Etsy for
Yeah,
$10.
Yeah, it's my bestseller. And what did you contrive to make that? Inquired Dantes. And with what did you contrive to make that? Inquired Dantes. With one of the clamps of my bedstead, and this very tool has sufficed me to hollow out the road by which I came hither, a distance of about 50 feet. 50 feet, responded Dantes, almost terrified. Do not speak so loud, young man. Don't speak so loud. It frequently occurs in a state prison like this that persons are stationed outside the doors of the cells purposely to overhear the conversation of the prisoners. But they believe I am shut up here alone. Shut up alone here. That makes no difference. And you say that you dug your way a distance of 50 feet to get here? I do. That is about the distance that separates your chamber from mine. Only, unfortunately, I did not curve aright for want of the necessary geometrical instruments to calculate my scale of proportion. Instead of taking an ellipsis of 40 feet, I made it 50. I expected, as I told you, to reach the outer wall, pierce through it, and throw myself into the sea. I have, however, kept along the corridor on which your chamber opens, instead of going beneath it. My labor is all in vain, for I find that the corridor looks into the courtyard, a courtyard filled with soldiers. So not only did he fail to make it to the wall, even if he had made it to the wall, it's not the right wall.
Mm-hmm.
You blew it, Abbe. Take it from there.
Poor dude. That's true, said Dantes, but the corridor you speak of only bounds one side of my cell. There are 3 others. Do you know anything of their situation? This one is built against a solid rock, and it would take 10 experienced miners, duly furnished with the requisite tools, as many years to perforate it. This adjoins the lower parts of the governor's apartments, and were we to work our way through, we should only get into some lock-up cellars where we must necessarily be recaptured. The first and last side of your cell faces on... Stop a minute now, where does it face? The wall of which he spoke was the one in which was fixed the loophole by which light was admitted to the chamber. Wait, the loop? Oh, loophole as in a window?
Yeah, I think so.
This loophole, which gradually diminished in size as it approached the outside, This loophole, which gradually diminished in size as it approached the outside.
So it's almost like a cone?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I think so.
Okay.
To an opening through which a child could not have passed, was, for better security, furnished with 3 iron bars, so as to quiet all apprehensions even in the mind of the most suspicious jailer as to the possibility of a prisoner's escape. As the stranger asked the question, he dragged the table beneath the window. Scroll. Climb up, said he to Dantes. The young man obeyed, mounted on the table, and, divining the wishes of his companion, placed his back securely against the wall and held out both hands. The stranger, whom as yet Dantes knew only by the number of his cell, sprang up with an agility by no means to be expected in a person of his years, and, light and steady on his feet as a cat or a lizard, climbed from the table to the outstretched hands of Dantes, and from them to his shoulders. Then bending double, for the ceiling of the dungeon prevented him from holding himself erect, he managed to slip his head between the upper bars of the window so as to be able to command a perfect view from top to bottom. An instant afterwards he hastily drew back his head, saying, I thought so. So. Oh, alright. I don't know why that sounds weird.
I thought so.
I
I think it's like the emphasis. I thought so. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And sliding from the shoulders of Dantes as dexterously as he had ascended, he nimbly leapt from the table to the ground. What was it that you sought? Asked the young man anxiously, in his turn descending from the table. The elder prisoner pondered the matter. Yes, said he at length, it is so. This side of your chamber looks out upon a kind of open gallery, where patrols are continually passing and sentries keep watch day and night. Are you quite sure of that? Certain. I saw the soldier's shape and the top of his musket. That made me draw in my head so quickly, for I was fearful he might also see me. Well? Inquired Dantes. You perceive, then, the utter impossibility of escaping through your dungeon. Then? pursued the young man eagerly.
So you're saying...
There's a chance. Then, answered the elder prisoner, the will of God be done. The will of God be done. And as the old man slowly pronounced those words, an air of profound resignation spread itself over his careworn countenance. Dantes gazed on the man who could thus philosophically resign hope so long and ardently nourished with an astonishment mingled with admiration. Tell me, I entreat you, who and what you are, he said at length. Never have I met with so remarkable a person as yourself. Willingly, answered the stranger, if indeed you feel any curiosity respecting one, now, alas... Oh.
No, I think you had it.
Okay. Now, alas, powerless to aid you in any way. God, the sentence structure is like so great, but so complex that it's like...
It's hard to anticipate.
It's like driving on a bumpy road.
Mm-hmm.
And only when you look back do you see where you went. Say not so. Say not so. You can console and support me by the strength of your own powerful mind. Pray, let me know who you really are. The stranger smiled a melancholy smile. Then listen, said he. I am the Abbé Faria, and have been imprisoned, as you know, in this chateau d'If since the year 1811, previously to which I had been confined for 3 years in the fortress of Fenestrelle. In the year 1811, I was transferred to Piedmont in France. It was at this period I learned that the destiny, which seemed subservient to every wish formed by Napoleon, had bestowed on him a son, named King of Rome, even in his cradle. I was very far then from expecting the change you have just informed me of, namely that 4 years afterwards this colossus of power would be overthrown. Then who reigns in France at this moment? Napoleon II? No, Louis XVIII. Go ahead, Lou.
The brother of Louis XVI. How inscrutable are the ways of Providence! For what great and mysterious purpose has it pleased heaven to abase the man once so elevated and raise up him who was so abased? Okay, I don't really understand. I guess
it's so weird. Heaven is like this one dude was at the bottom.
Now he's back at the top. Yeah.
Someone was at the top.
Yeah. Dantes' whole attention was riveted on a man who could thus forget his own misfortunes while occupying himself with the destinies of others. Yes, yes, continued he. 'Twill be the same as it was in England. After Charles first Cromwell, after Cromwell Charles second, and then James second, and then some son-in-law relation, some Prince of Orange, a stadtholder who became a king. Then new concessions to the peoples and the constitutions and liberty. Ah, my friend, said the abbe, turning towards Dantes and surveying him with the kindling
Mm-hmm.
gaze of a prophet.
Mm.
You are young. You will see all this come to pass. Probably, if ever I get out of prison. True, replied Faria. We are prisoners, but I forget this sometimes, and there are even moments when my mental vision transports me beyond these walls, and I fancy myself at liberty. But wherefore are you here? One thing I learned, this is the thing that gets people, people who are reading Shakespeare. Wherefore, I know you already know this. I'm telling this to our viewers. Wherefore often comes across as like where. So wherefore art thou Romeo? I think some people interpret that as like where is Romeo? But wherefore in like old speak, medieval, what would you call this? Like old English?
Yeah, sure.
Means why. So he's asking, why are you here? And so wherefore art thou Romeo? Juliet is actually asking, why are you named Romeo? Or why are you Romeo? Because he's not accessible to her, etc. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's a little old English lesson there for you.
The more you know.
But wherefore are you here? Because in 1807, 1807, I dreamed of the very plan Napoleon tried to realize in 1811. 1811. Because, like Machiavelli, I desired to alter the political face of Italy, and instead of allowing it to be split up into a quantity of petty principalities, each held by some weak or tyrannical ruler, I sought to form one large, compact, and powerful empire. So he's a little bit like an early Joseph Stalin. Who's in Italy? Was
Yeah.
that Joseph Stalin?
Yeah.
All right.
No. What's his name?
Mussolini.
Yes.
Mussolini.
Stalin's Russian.
Yeah. Stalin was Russian. Sorry. Same time period. No, I shouldn't put this on the Abbé comparing him to Mussolini. Mussolini was a monster. But he did want one large, compact, and powerful empire. And lastly, because I fancied I had found my Caesar Borgia in a crown simpleton, who feigned to enter into my views only to betray me. It was the plan of Alexander VI and Clement VII, but it will never succeed now, for they attempted it fruitlessly, and Napoleon was unable to complete his work. Italy seems fated to misfortune. And the old man bowed his head. Dantes could not understand a man risking his life for such matters. Napoleon certainly he knew something of, inasmuch as he had seen and spoken with him. What? He'd spoken with Napoleon?
That
What? No, I can't be right.
maybe he means like of him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gotta be it. I feel like that's
19-year-old
crazy.
Dantes is not rubbing elbows with
Hobnobbing with Napoleon. Yeah.
Not after all this.
But of Clement VII and Alexander VI, he knew... Oh, sorry. But of Clement VII and Alexander VI, he knew nothing. Take it away.
Are you not, he asked, the priest who here in the Chateau d'If is generally thought to be ill? Mad, you mean, don't you? I did not like to say so, answered Dantes, smiling.
But yes.
But like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well then, resumed Faria with a bitter smile, let me answer your question in full by acknowledging that I am the poor mad prisoner of the Chateau d'If, for many years permitted to amuse the different visitors with what is said to be my insanity. And in all probability, I should be promoted to the honor of making sport for the children if such innocent beings could be found in an abode devoted like this to suffering and despair. Oh.
Brutal.
Dantes remained for a short time mute and motionless. At length he said, "Then you abandon all hope of escape? I perceive its utter impossibility, and I consider it impious to attempt that which the Almighty evidently does not approve."
Well, that's kind of a cop-out. That's too hard. It's not meant to be. I don't want to insult you by trying harder.
There's a poetry to what he's thinking. He's like, it'll be impious to try to do something that God obviously doesn't want to do. God obviously, look at this situation. God obviously doesn't want us to escape. So it'll be like
yeah,
insulting God to even try.
Seems like a cop-out. All right.
Nay, be not discouraged. Would it not be expecting too much to hope to succeed at your first attempt? Why not try to find an opening in another direction from that which has so unfortunately failed? Alas, it shows how little notion you can have of all it has cost me to effect a purpose so unexpectedly frustrated that you talk of beginning over again. In the first place, I was 4 years making the tools I possess, and have been 2 years scraping and digging out earth, hard as granite itself. Then what toil and fatigue has it not been to remove huge stones I should once have deemed impossible to loosen? Whole days have I passed in these titanic efforts, considering my labor well repaid, if by night time I contrived to carry away a square inch of this hard-bound cement, changed by ages into a substance unyielding as the stones themselves. Then to conceal the mass of earth and rubbish I dug up, I was compelled to break through a staircase and throw the fruits of my labor into the hollow part of it.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. But the well is now so completely choked up that I scarcely think it would be possible to add another handful of dust without leading to discovery. Consider also that I fully believed I had accomplished the end and aim of my undertaking, for which I had so exactly husbanded my strength as to make it just hold out to the termination of my enterprise. And now, at the moment when I reckoned upon success, my hopes are forever dashed from me. No, I repeat again that nothing shall induce me to renew attempts evidently at variance with the Almighty's pleasure.
Wow. Bummer.
Dantes held down his head that the other might not see how joy at the thought of having a companion outweighed the sympathy he felt for the failure of the abbe's plans. Daily.
The abbe sank upon Edmund's bed, while Edmund himself remained standing. Escape had never once occurred to him. There are, indeed, some things which appear so impossible that the mind does not dwell on them for an instant. To undermine the ground for 50 feet, to devote 3 years to a labor which, if unsuccessful, would conduct you if successful, would conduct you to a precipice overhanging the sea, to plunge into the waves from the height of 50, 60, perhaps 100 feet, at the risk of being dashed to pieces against the rocks, should you have been fortunate enough to have escaped the fire of the sentinels, and even, supposing all these perils passed, then to have to swim for your life at distance of at least 3 miles ere you could reach the shore, were difficulties so startling and formidable that Dantes had never even dreamed of such a scheme, resigning himself rather to death. But the sight of an old man clinging to life with so desperate a courage gave a fresh turn to his ideas and inspired him with new courage. Another, older and less strong than he, had attempted what he had not had sufficient resolution to undertake, and had failed only because of an error in calculation. This same person, with almost incredible patience and perseverance, had contrived to provide himself with tools requisite for so unparalleled an attempt. Another had done all this. Why, then, was it impossible to Dantes? Faria had dug his way through 50 feet. Dantes would dig 100. Faria, at the age of 50, had devoted 3 years to the task. He, who was but half as old, would sacrifice 6. Faria, a priest and savant, had not shrunk from the idea of risking his life by trying to swim a distance of 3 miles to one of the islands, Dome, Ritino, or Le Maire. Should a hardy sailor and an experienced diver like himself shrink from a similar task? Should he, who had so often for mere amusement's sake, this is a humongous sentence.
I know.
Should he, who had so often for mere amusement's sake plunged to the bottom of the sea to fetch up the bright coral branch, hesitate to entertain the same project? There, that's a question for you.
Well done.
There you go. He could do it in an hour. And how many times had he, for pure pastime, continued in the water for more than twice as long? At once, Dantes resolved to follow the brave example of his energetic companion, and to remember that what has once been done may be done again. Okay, that's some good optimism there. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are dire straits. If I was in Dantes's position, I would not be feeling half as optimistic. I'd be like, you fool. you missed by 50 feet, and now or you miscalculated, and now we've got to spend years. But I guess if you've got all that time in your hands,
you've got all that time, you're thinking like, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like,
might as well get closer to freedom.
Oh, I need the energy. After work, I got no energy to dig. I guess it's like you can do it all the time, except you just have to make sure that the guards aren't watching you. Mm-hmm. Okay, fair. After continuing some time in profound meditation, the young man suddenly exclaimed, I found what you were in search of. Faria started. Have you indeed? Cried he, raising his head with quick anxiety. Pray, let me know what it is you have discovered. I have found what you were looking for. What is it? The corridor through which you have bored your way from the cell you occupy here extends in the same direction as the outer gallery, does it not? Yeah, hold on.
Through which you have bored your way from the cell you occupy here. Oh, extends in the same direction as the outer gallery. Okay, I don't know. The gallery is the outside Dantes's window, right?
Yeah, extends in the same direction as the outer gallery. Yeah, okay, yep, it does. And is it... Okay, it does. And is it not above 15 feet from it? About that? Okay, so he's saying you're above the gallery 15 feet. Well, then I will tell you what we must do. We must pierce through the corridor by forming a side opening, about the middle, as it were, the top part of a cross. This time you will lay your plans more accurately. We shall get out into the gallery you have described, kill the sentinel who guards it, and make our escape. All we require to ensure success is courage, and that you possess, and strengths. Oh, and that you possess, and strengths, which I am not deficient in. And Faria's like, just like flexes, and his forearms just like bulge. You have abundantly proved yours. You shall now see me prove mine.
Scroll up though quickly.
Yeah, like what's this plan here? He wants to go, like basically at some point along the corridor, do 90 degrees. So that's the top of a cross. Top part of a cross.
So maybe get out to a part of the gallery that won't be so obvious.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Or something.
Okay, why don't you take it from here?
Okay. Wait, can we look at the pic?
Yeah, what do we have here? This is like a Renaissance pose.
Yeah, it is.
He's like, man, my feet.
Also, don't his feet look tiny? And also, shouldn't he be tall enough that he can touch the ground? Like, that happens to me. I can rarely touch the ground when I sit down. But he doesn't look like a short man.
Maybe he's just really far back on the bed. No, his knees are right at the edge. It's a good question. It's a good question.
He almost looks like Ryan Reynolds, just like top half is an adult, bottom half is a baby.
Maybe that's what this expression is. Maybe he's just realizing this. Like, he sat down, he's looking at his feet above the floor. He's going like, what's the L?
I am deformed.
And Dantes is like, dude, focus. I'm trying to get us out of here.
And he's like, have you seen my feet?
What's the L?
Look, look.
Okay.
Seriously.
All right, take it away.
Okay. Hold up. Okay. One instant, my dear friend, replied the Abbé. It is clear you do not understand the nature of the courage with which I am endowed, and what use I intend making of my strength. As for patience, I consider that I have abundantly exercised that in beginning every morning the task of the night before, and every night renewing the task of the day. But then, young man, and I pray of you to give me your full attention, that I thought I could not be doing anything displeasing to the Almighty in trying to set an innocent being at liberty, one who had committed no offense and merited no condemnation.
Yeah, and Dantes is like talking about straight murdering a guard.
Yeah.
And I think that's like crossing a line.
And have your notions changed? Asked Dantes with much surprise. Do you think yourself more guilty in making the attempt since you have encountered me? No, neither do I wish to incur guilt. Hitherto I have fancied myself merely waging war against circumstances, not men. I have thought it no sin to bore through a wall or destroy a staircase, but I cannot so easily persuade myself to pierce a heart or take away a life. A slight movement of surprise escaped Dantes. He's like, what the F,
What?
man? How else are we gonna do this, man?
Don't blow this for me, Abbe.
Is it possible, said he, that where your liberty is at stake you can allow such a scruple to deter you from attaining it?
Could you allow, say, one murder?
One little murder?
Tiny murder?
Just a tiny one?
Yeah.
Tell me, replied Faria, what has hindered you from knocking down your jailer with a piece of wood torn from your bedstead, dressing yourself in his clothes and endeavoring to escape? Simply the fact that the idea never occurred to me.
It's like, that's actually an amazing idea.
He's like, thank you, man.
That's a crazy good idea.
No!
You don't even have to kill him.
People would recognize the dude. People would know Dantes hasn't been clean. His face would be dirty. His hair.
I wonder
would
what the
suck.
jailer looks like. Imagine that the jailer comes down. He's got the soup of the
Showered.
day. He comes down and then he looks into the cell and there's Dantes, who has made himself look like the jailer, but in a like
Put on mutton chops.
but it's like jail, like really rigged from like he's ripped out hair from another part of his head to make mutton chops or something, so it's like really shabby. Ah. Oh, this is good stuff. All right.
Because, said the old man, the natural repugnance to the commission of such a crime prevented you from thinking of it. And so it ever is because in simple and allowable things, our natural instincts keep us from deviating from the strict line of duty. The tiger, whose nature teaches him to delight in shedding blood, needs but the scent of smell to show him when his prey is within his reach, and by following this instinct he is enabled to measure the leap necessary to permit him to spring on his victim. But man, on the contrary, loathes the idea of blood. It is not alone that the laws of social life inspire him with a shrinking dread of taking life. his natural construction and physiological formation. Dantes was confused and silent at this explanation of the thoughts which had unconsciously been working in his mind, or rather soul. For there are two distinct sorts of ideas, those that proceed from the head and those that emanate from the heart.
Dantes is like, come on, it's one murder. And the Abbé, who's slightly out of focus.
Looks like a ghost.
It looks like pretty crazy ghost, too. It kind of looks like if you left Billy Connolly in a cellar for a week.
Ooh, I'm going to hunt you now.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a terrible Billy Connolly. Okay, I'll do one more. Since my imprisonment, said Faria, I have sought over all the most celebrated cases of escape on record. They have rarely been successful. Those that have been crowned with full success have been long meditated upon and carefully arranged. Such, for instance, as the escape of the Duc de Beaufort from the Château de Vincennes, that of the Abbé Dubuquois from Fort l'Evêque, or Latude from the Bastille. Then there are those for which chance sometimes affords opportunity, and those are the best of all. Let us, therefore, wait patiently for some favorable moment, and when it presents itself, profit by it.
Ah, said Dantes, you might well endure the tedious delay. You are constantly employed in the task you set yourself, and when weary with toil, you had your hopes to refresh and encourage you. What? You might well endure the tedious delay. You were constantly employed in the task you set yourself, and when weary with toil, you had hopes to refresh and encourage you.
Because he's like, let's just wait and see what happens. See if we get lucky.
You might well endure the tedious delay. Oh, yeah, that's what he's saying. Okay. Yeah, that's going to take a while. I assure you, replied the old man, I did not turn to that source for recreation or support. What did you do then? I wrote or studied. Were you then permitted the use of pens, ink, and paper? Oh, no, answered the Abbé. I had none but what I made for myself. You made paper, pens, and ink? Yes. Dantes gazed with admiration, but he had some difficulty in believing. Faria saw this.
Okay, my guess is he did a chokehold on a pigeon through the window.
It doesn't kill.
Yeah, but he just brought him through the window, squeezed a little bit of blood out, and set him free.
Yeah, maybe he grabs birds and he etches in the stone with birds, but he then sets them free. Pardon? Merci? Maybe. You might be onto something there. Let's see. When you pay me a visit in my cell, my young friend, said he, I will show you an entire work, the fruits of the thoughts and reflections of my whole life. Pardon. Many of them meditated over in the shades of the Colosseum at Rome, at the foot of St. Mark's Column at Venice, and on the borders of the Arno at Florence, little imagining at the times that they would be arranged in order within the walls of the Chateau d'If. The work I speak of is called A Treatise on the Possibility of a General Monarchy in Italy, and will make one large quarto volume.
Where the hell is he writing all this? Oh, here we go. He's going to tell us.
And on what have you written all this? On 2 of my shirts.
He's got 2 shirts?
Yeah. I invented a preparation that makes linen as smooth and as easy to write on as parchment. You are then a chemist? Somewhat. I know Lavoisier, and was the intimate friend of Cabanilles. But for such a work, you must have needed books. Had you any? I had nearly 5,000 volumes in my library at Rome, but after reading them over many times, I found that with 150 well-chosen books a man possesses, if not a complete summary of all human knowledge, at least all that a man need really know.
150 well-chosen books.
That's all you need to know. I devoted 3 years of my life to reading and studying these 150 volumes, till I knew them nearly by heart, so that since I have been in prison, a very slight effort of memory has enabled me to recall their contents as readily as though the pages were open before me. I could recite you the whole of Thucydides, Xenophon, Plutarch, Titus Livius, Tacitus, Strada, Jornadus, Dante, Montaigne, Shakespeare, Spinoza, Machiavelli, Bousset, and Dan Brown. I name only the most important. I added Dan Brown. You are doubtless acquainted with a variety of languages, so as to have been able to read all these. Yes, I speak 5 of the modern tongues, that is to say, German, French, Italian, English, and Spanish. By the aid of ancient Greek, I learned modern Greek. I don't speak it so well as I could wish, but I am still trying to improve myself. Improve yourself, repeated Dantes. Why, how can you manage to do so? All right, we're coming to the end. I'm going to probably take a break right around here.
All right.
Why, I made the vocabulary of the words I knew, turned, returned, and arranged them so as to enable me to express my thoughts through their medium. I know nearly 1,000 words, which is all that is absolutely necessary, although I believe there are nearly 100,000 in the dictionaries. I cannot hope to be very fluent, but I certainly should have no difficulty in explaining my wants and wishes, and that would be quite as much as I should ever require. Stronger grew the wonder of Dantes, who almost fancied he had to do with one gifted with supernatural powers. Still, hoping to find some imperfection which might bring him down to a level with human beings, he added, "Then, if you were not furnished with pens, how did you manage to write the work you speak of?"
He's just poking holes in his story.
Yeah.
I made myself some excellent ones, which would be universally preferred to all others if once known. You are aware what huge whitings are served to us on maigre days? What's a whiting?
I don't know.
Well,
I guess it's food?
Yeah. Oh, fish. Well, I selected the cartilages of the heads of these fishes,
Nice.
and you can scarcely imagine the delight with which I welcome the arrival of each Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, as affording me the means of increasing my stock of pens. For I will freely confess that my historical labors have been my greatest solace and relief. So he's writing with the
Fish
cartilage.
bones or something, yeah.
What's this? Oh, yeah, okay. Getting ahead of ourselves. While retracing the past, I forget the present. And traversing at will the path of history, I cease to remember that I am myself a prisoner. But the ink, said Dantes. Of what did you make your ink? There was formerly a fireplace in my dungeon, replied Faria, but it was closed up long ere I became an occupant of this prison. Still, it must have been many years in use, for it was thickly covered with a coating of soot. This soot I dissolved in a portion of the wine brought to me every Sunday, and I assure you a better ink cannot be desired. For very important notes, for which closer attention is required, I pricked one of my fingers and wrote with my own blood.
For redlining things?
Gross. And when, asked Dantes, may I see all this? Whenever you please, replied the Abbé. Oh, then let it be directly, exclaimed the young man. Follow me, then, said the Abbé,
Suivez-moi.
as he re-entered the subterranean passage, in which he soon disappeared, followed by Dantes. Oh, cool.
Wow. Amazing.
I like their teamwork.
Yeah, this is a good team. You've got like the old hand who really knows what he's doing, but he's a little crazy.
He's
like
a kooky old dude.
he's kooky, yeah, but very resourceful. He's found a way of making pens and ink, and he's learned all these languages. Some of it sounds a little too incredible to be believed that he has memorized all of these books, like the entire works of Shakespeare and everyone else.
Like a bunch of it. I don't know.
I
People
might have been bragging. I can paraphrase.
I can paraphrase.
Like to be or not to be. Da, da, da,
Da, da, da, da, da.
da, 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 da.
Although it strikes me as if you're wealthy and educated, that like you spend a lot of time memorizing texts and reading books and stuff.
Yeah, and maybe back then that was kind of like more typical.
Yeah, like he's not spending his time like going to baseball. He's like doing tutors and languages and
Yeah, learning stuff by rote. I guess back then, maybe even back here, books are still really precious.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like the Gutenberg press hasn't been cranking out too much stuff. So maybe the memorization powers are just better back then. People were more used to memorizing stuff.
You think if he has access to that kind of
But he had a library.
work, then he would be like middle to upper class.
It sounds like he was very well off.
But then, like, how the hell did he get taken away? He couldn't just buy himself out.
Good question. Well, maybe he is too honest a guy. That's the other thing that comes across, is that he's a little I wouldn't say fanatical, but he's very sort of hard line on his like morals and ethics.
Yeah.
Won't kill a man,
Yeah.
and he won't he has no qualms about digging a tunnel, but even to secure his freedom after so many years, he won't kill anyone. It doesn't even sound like he'd injure someone. I have a hard, like, Dantes went straight for murdering the guard. You could also knock the guard out, or just like tie him up, or just disable the guard somehow. You don't have to kill him, but they're not even entertaining that.
Yeah, why can't you just hit him on the head with a rock, but like not too hard?
Yeah, just enough to like incapacitate the guard. The idea, I'm still really interested. Like, the shorter path might be to go through the jailer, wait for the jailer to show up, knock him out. Don't have to kill him, just knock him out, take his clothes.
But then only one person could go. And then they would like be on high alert for like a million years after.
That's true. That's true. I don't know if
Unless one person, yeah. Unless
go with the tunnel.
Unless they can find a way to make their own jailer clothes, like
Abe is like, I've been making jailer's clothes out of pigeon feathers and my own spit.
This will work.
Dyed
it with my own blood.
Perfect. So that was chapter 16 of the Count of Monte Cristo. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll have chapter 17 soon. I'm gonna play the music again to send us out. I'm Mike.
Amen.
Thanks for watching.
Is it gonna be fun? Yes, indeed. And then Mike, read.
Take care. Good night.